science has discovered that just like there's a blood type or a body type, every one of us is born with a unique metabolic type. The same foods that keep your friend slim may make you puffy and tired. So you got to eat right for your type. So what is your metabolism type? Well, you can't tell it just by looking at the outside of somebody. Sarah, Jen, and Emily are joining me. If you don't mind, if you could all stand. So just by looking at your body types, you'd all think you'd burn calories sort of the same way, wouldn't you? In fact, you're sisters.
Yes.
Thinking about your dad, what he went through. All right, so, just because you look the same on the outside, the metabolisms can be quite different. In fact, yours are. So today we're going to help you find yours. I'm going to go through the main characteristics for every metabolism type. Let's start with the first type. Have a seat if you don't mind. We're going to talk about Sarah. You go first.
Okay.
So let's talk about the foods that you crave.
Okay, well, I'm obsessed with potato chips and pretzels, and I love salt.
So salty snacks.
Yes.
Potato chips and pretzels in particular. What kinds of things, actually I'll ask you differently. Do you find yourself to be sort of a calm person, or are you more anxious? I can ask your sisters if you want, but.
They'll answer yes. I'm easygoing, but I tend to get a lot of anxiety, and I don't know why.
So you're anxious. And what do you do when you get anxious?
I eat an entire bag of potato chips. But they're baked. I go for the baked ones.
So this is an important point. It may be that your reaction to the stress, anxiety that you're feeling, which is to get those potato chips, which have salt on them, may actually be causing the problem that you're having, which is pretty typical for a lot of folks because your metabolism doesn't process those foods as efficiently as it should, and your body is crazily trying to get out of this vicious cycle that you created for it. Because you are, in fact, metabolic body type A. You're not alone. It may be happening to a lot of other women who are craving salt just like you. And here's what metabolic body type A is all about. It's about people who have a strong appetite. They crave fatty, salty foods. Let me know if this checks out with you. They often feel fatigue and anxiety. They're talkative and they're outgoing. Is that you?
Yes.
Sister's nodding yes. All right. So how many of you think that you're type A? Put your hands up there. It's a fair number of people. So I don't want you all to worry. I've got a plan for you. In fact, I've got a plan for every one of these metabolic types. But we want to identify which one we're all in first. So we're going to put you in type A.
Okay.
Let's shift to the next type. Jen, you have a very different reaction to food, I understand, than Sarah does. So what's the classic go-to snack for you?
I have to have my ice cream. Ice cream and sweets. I love it. It's like my oxygen. If I don't have ice cream, I'm in trouble.
And does your body react well to that? Does it energize you?
I don't know about if it energizes me, but I just love it.
So here's the deal. A lot of folks react very differently to salty foods versus sweet foods. This is one of the big differences between these two different types. So in the middle of the afternoon, Jen, when you feel a little bit tired, what do you do?
So I try to focus throughout the day, but yes, I do get tired, and I crave, literally, also coffee. I have to have a latte in the afternoon.
All right. So,
it focuses me.
all right. So caffeine to focus you, and you like sweets. All right. So you are classic metabolism type B. And let's define what that means for everyone at home as well. These are the characteristics. So remember these. Relatively weak appetites, so not quite as much as your sister. Ambitious, crave sweets, you're organized, you tend to get stressed out. And by the way, that makes you very dependent on caffeine to rev you up a little bit more because you sort of peter out otherwise. And you tend to be sensitive.
That's true.
Is that true?
Yes, she's very sensitive.
Well, I like that. There's agreement here. Now listen, I'm going to be clear about this. This is different from anything we've ever spoken about on this show before, everybody. What I'm trying to say is the foods that you're eating are directly affecting your personality. And your personality, the cravings you have, are actually taking you into the foods that create that cycle that we spoke about earlier. So it's an important observation. All right, now if you're having trouble figuring out if you're type A or type B, which I suspect a lot of folks are, well then you may actually like both salty and sweet. You may actually be a combination. You might be like Emily, who's actually metabolic type C.
Right, I love it all. I love chocolate covered popcorn.
Is that what he had?
My favorite snack is a chocolate covered popcorn.
Are you kidding me? That is truly a combination. So you like both types of tastes.
Yes.
You have a sort of a combination of personalities. Are you generally more calm or anxious?
I try to stay calm, but I worry a lot, and I'm very nervous. And I worry when I don't even need to worry. So that's just how I act normally.
Yeah. Agreed, sisters?
Yes.
Well, you don't have to worry anymore because it might be the foods that are actually causing you to behave that way. And this is one of the reasons I feel so passionate about this topic, because if you could clue in to how your metabolic body type the desire of your body to eat certain foods is affecting your personality, you can adapt accordingly. So here are the classic characteristics of type C metabolism. Fluctuating, unpredictable appetite. It could be a combination of sweets and salties like you like with the chocolate-covered popcorn. I can't believe you like those, by the way. Tend towards anxiety and nervousness. And a lot of times folks will suffer lots of aches and pains if they're metabolic type C.
Well, I do have back pain.
You do?
She complains about it.
She complains about it. Well, the complaining element is a big part of it, by the way, and that goes with C a fair amount. And listen, I'm going to say one of these is not better than the others. These are just an observation.
And he's always the best.
People will vary, and whatever they are, they are. There's a ton of science that's been done over the last half a century looking at this basic foundation of work. And it comes back down to insights about how we're all different because we came from different places. Let's start with everyone like Sarah, who craves salty foods and suffers from a little bit of anxiety and treats the anxiety with more salty foods. That's called the metabolism type A. That's what you are, not you know that.
Yes.
And everyone at home, again, you can take the DrOz.com quiz and figure out exactly what your metabolism type is. Your metabolism very efficiently utilizes proteins and fats. That's true for all type A's. And so because of that, you actually prefer to use those more than carbs in your diet. You're craving salt because that's actually reminding you about meats and about proteins and things like that. So your plate ought to be 50% protein, 30% fats, and 20% carbohydrates. Is that clear?
Yes.
And literally, this is what your plate ought to look like. You ought to not try
So
to
there's
vary
no
this.
chips on it.
No chips on this. Again, you want the salt, but not in the form of carbohydrates. It should be the least common thing in metabolism type A people's diets because it'll take you in the wrong direction. It'll cause that anxiety that you're having. Now, it's especially important for type A's to recognize you have to have a little bit of protein. In almost everything you eat, at least get you in the right direction. But it's not just any protein. If you notice, I picked darker cuts of meat. So steaks, obviously, but darker types of poultry, dark-colored fish like tuna and salmon. You sort of want that kind of darkness in your life because your metabolism is geared up to eat this and digest this kind of food.
Usually I do white meat.
No. White meat we're going to get to over there. Your sister's got that.
Oh.
Okay. You may go in that direction, but it's actually not what your metabolism is telling you to do. The other thing that's sort of interesting, if you just look here, I put some dairy here. If I would open your fridge right now, what kind of percentage fat would I find in the dairy products you have?
It would be skim milk and fat-free or low-fat cheese.
Okay. You are done that. From now on, I want you, and this is good news, you may have some fat in your dairy.
So I can eat real cheese?
Yes, real cheese, and you can have 2% fat milk. I actually think it's better for your metabolism type. Because people make the mistake of believing that by having a low-fat dairy product, they're better off, but that's mostly sugar, which puts you over here in the carbohydrate category. Well, you want to try to stay over here as much as you can. Fair enough?
Yes.
Remember, metabolism type A have just a little bit of refined and starchy foods. You can't have very much because you can't metabolize it effectively. You're in?
Yes.
Okay. What don't you like about it? How can I help you understand it better?
The dark meat scares me a little bit.
Yeah.
I've always been told to eat white meat.
That's a fallacy. There's not a big health benefit just abstractly between dark meat and light meat. I don't know why that got so prevalently believed in our society, but it's not the case. In fact, if you like the taste of one over the other, you probably ought to go in that direction. But once you know your metabolism type, you know where to stay.
Okay. Thanks.
Now let's move on to Jen. Now Jen, everyone else like Jen who craves sweet foods, the metabolic type B people, they have to adjust their metabolism a little bit by realizing that it will easily store carbohydrates. That's why your body likes sweet things. It actually will desire to be on carbohydrates. It just doesn't want candy.
Okay.
It wants real carbohydrates. So I put here 70% of your plate being full of carbs. You get about 20% or so of proteins and only 10% of fats. So it's very different from what we just left Sarah with.
I like to eat her diet, though.
You do, don't you?
I mean, this bread is scary.
But the thing is, if you don't eat the diet that's designed for your metabolic type, then you're going to end up craving that caffeine all afternoon. You're going to not be able to function the way your body naturally wants to function. It can't deal with the slower processing of some foods over here. Okay. And you actually get through this food in a different way, so you've got to have it as the main part of your diet.
Okay, well that's exciting because I love bread, but I just don't eat it.
Well, now you can have a little more bread, but it's going to be 100% whole grain bread. Same, these are all healthy carbohydrates. I'm not recommending that you go out and get sugary stuff. Fair enough?
Okay.
Now, the one thing that, type Bs really do great on a low-fat diet, relatively speaking. So try to slice it down as little as you can in your diet, and this will take you into the right place, generally speaking.
Great.
What's your favorite thing on here?
I would have to say the fish.
The fish. Well, the fish can go, but notice it's light fish.
Right.
Light meat. This is breast from
Right.
poultry.
And it's funny because I like dark meat.
You do. No wonder. You must have driven your father crazy. All right. And,
okay.
and
I think it looks
your
good.
dairy also has to be low-fat dairy because you can't get away with the fat that
okay.
Sarah
It
can
is
get through.
low-fat.
Okay, that's what
So-
type Bs do. All right. Finally, unlike type A and type B, we've got, for Emily and type C, a whole different program. This is for people who crave both salty and sweet food,
Right.
like chocolate-covered popcorn.
Yes.
You're neither type A nor type B like your sisters, you're type C. If you, like Emily here, are often suffering aches and pains, then you're often also in metabolism type C. You got your back pain,
Yep.
and you crave sweets and salts.
That's right.
So what you need to be eating for your diet is very different from what type A and type Bs can tolerate, even if you look the same, even if you're related to them. Because type C folks have the ability to utilize all three nutrients: fats, carbs, proteins. You can do all of them equally. And so we divide your plate into 30%, a third each of those major groups of fats, of protein, and of carbohydrates. And interestingly, that means you actually get to have more fats than either of your sisters over there.
Okay.
That's good news for most people.
Yeah.
You gonna celebrate about that? Which of these fats do you like the most?
The eggs, and I typically stay away from cheese, but it looks like I should be eating more of it.
You can't have more of it because your metabolism will deal with it in an effective way. It also can soothe some of the other issues you're having in your life.
Okay.
Again, I'm going to be clear about this. What's different about this idea, and it's been looked at for a long time, is not just that you have metabolism differences, but that the foods you eat change your personality. And so take you in a place you don't want to be. So if you want to avoid having the aches and pains and being concerned about them and complaining about them and dealing with them in that way, this is a diet that will take you in that direction.
Okay.
You also, by the way, notice it's a mixture of different colors of proteins. So you'll have the light and the dark colored fish. You can have light meat and dark meat poultry.
Okay.
You can have beans and steak. You can have anything you want, which is a little different from what type A's and type B's can tolerate. And finally, you can fill up the last part of your plate with carbohydrates because you're free to have those as well.
Right.
So again, I want the healthier versions of all these. So let me go through this again. And by the way, this is, I gather, you've pointed out the dairy's a little different. Are there other differences between your normal plate and what we're having here?
Actually, it looks pretty similar.
Good. So we're headed in the right direction. All right. So let's look one more time at all these three plate size types because I want you to all remember these in case you're type A, for example. Sarah's over there celebrating about her type A plate where it's half meat, mostly dark colored, and then the breakdown of fats and carbohydrates. What do you like the most about your plate?
The cheese.
You like the cheese? Well, you're allowed to have 30% fats. That's pretty good.
I want some of her plate though.
You want some? Of course, your sisters. Of course you do. All right. And Jen, you're type B. And type B folks, you have sweet tooth, but they're allowed to have lots of carbohydrates, the right kind, of course. What's going to be the hardest part about being on this program?
Like thinking that I can actually eat bread and cereals, which I've really cut from my diet in the last 10 years, basically.
Because you thought it wasn't good for you.
Right.
I would argue that you should eat them both because long term, I think it'll actually support your diet, but it'll also help other issues that you may want to deal with in your personality, and you probably get off the caffeine. Okay. And
Thank
finally, let's talk about, Emily, your balanced approach. What's going to be the biggest challenge about this?
Just doing the 30% of each because I tend to stay with the proteins and with the grains and potatoes.
What I'm looking forward to is your family meals. I'm going to come over at Thanksgiving, see what's going on.
You're invited.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss out on new videos to live the good life.